In March 2017, Kaplan and colleagues published a paper in The Lancet. They had CT scanned the hearts of 705 adults living in the Bolivian Amazon, men and women between 40 and 94 years old. 85% had zero plaque in their arteries. None. Clean. Even among people over 75, 65% still had a score of 0. That almost never happens in the industrialized world. By your late 70s, arterial plaque is basically considered a given in the West. In the US, only about 14% of adults in the same age group have a clean scan. Heart disease kills more Americans than anything else, and most of us quietly assume some version of it is coming for us too. The Tsimane of Bolivia are not getting it. No healthcare system, no statins, no cardiologists. What they have is a way of eating, and 5 specific things they never touch. By the end of this video, you will know what those 5 things are, and why removing even 1 or 2 of them may shift your numbers in ways no pill has managed. Stay for the end. The last thing I cover is not a food and not a supplement. It costs nothing. And it is the part most people skip completely, even the ones doing everything else right. If this is the kind of channel you have been looking for, hit subscribe now. A lot more is coming. The thing this video is about is called coronary atherosclerosis, plaque building up inside your heart arteries. Cholesterol, calcium, and other debris collect on the inner walls. The arteries narrow, blood flow drops. Eventually, a piece of that plaque breaks off, a clot forms, and you have a heart attack. Most people assume this is just what aging does to you. Your arteries wear out. It starts in your 40s, gets worse in your 60s, and by your 80s, it is simply part of the deal. The Tsimane data says that is wrong. These are not young people with perfect genes in a bubble. They have high levels of infection, no medical care, hard physical lives, and their arteries are clean. Kaplan and colleagues noted in The Lancet, 2017, that the Tsimane have the lowest reported levels of coronary artery disease of any population ever recorded, and that lifestyle factors, not genetics, are what set them apart. How do we know it is not genetics? Look at Okinawa, Japan. For decades, Okinawa had some of the longest-lived people on Earth, one of the lowest rates of heart disease anywhere. Same people, same gene pool. Then, after World War II, the diet changed. American fast food arrived. Processed food replaced sweet potatoes and fish. Within 1 or 2 generations, Okinawa went from being ranked first in Japan for male longevity to 26th by the year 2000 and 43rd by 2020. Heart disease, obesity, and metabolic disease climbed fast. Todoriki, Wilcox, and Wilcox documented this collapse in the Okinawan Journal of American Studies in 2004. The genes did not change. The food did. That is why the Tsimane matter. They are showing us what human arteries look like when they're never exposed to certain foods. 5 specific ones. The first thing the Tsimane never eat is ultra-processed food. That is the catch-all name for anything industrially manufactured. Packaged snacks, breakfast cereals, soft drinks, instant soups, deli meats, processed cheeses, most fast food. If it has a long ingredient list full of things you would not find in any kitchen, it is ultra-processed. These foods are built from substances extracted from real food. Refined starches, added sugars, industrial fats, protein isolates, then reassembled with chemical additives, colorings, and emulsifiers. The fiber is gone. The natural structure is gone. What is left digests fast, spikes blood sugar fast, and drives low-level inflammation in the artery walls. Some of these foods also contain chemical byproducts from high-heat manufacturing. Compounds that directly damage the cells lining your blood vessels. Schroer and colleagues tracked this in real people. Their study followed 105,159 adults over roughly 10 years, published in the BMJ in 2019. Every 10% increase in the proportion of ultra-processed food in the diet was linked to a 12% higher risk of cardiovascular disease overall, a 13% higher risk of coronary heart disease, and an 11% higher risk of stroke. I want to be straight with you about what that means. This is an observational study, a strong association, not a controlled experiment. People who eat more ultra-processed food also tend to smoke more, exercise less, earn less. The researchers adjusted for those factors, but we cannot say with certainty that the food alone is the cause. What we can say is that the pattern is consistent. It is large, and it matches the biology we see at the cellular level. The Tsimane eat none of this. Their food is unpackaged, unrefined, cooked from scratch over an open fire. Tonight, do this. Open your kitchen cupboards and read 3 ingredient labels. Any product with more than 5 ingredients, especially ones containing modified starch, sodium nitrate, hydrogenated, or anything ending in a series about that is an ultra-processed food. You do not have to throw it out tonight. Just know what you're looking at. That is 30% of the picture. What comes next is where most people, even the ones who eat well, make a mistake that cancels this out. The second thing the Tsimane never cook with or eat is industrial seed oil. You know these: soybean oil, corn oil, sunflower oil, canola oil, safflower oil. They are in almost everything processed. They are what most restaurants fry in. For decades we were told these were heart healthy because they lower your total cholesterol. The Tsimane data makes you look at that advice differently. A statin can lower your LDL number, but it cannot change what your LDL is made of. And what LDL is made of matters. Seed oils are very high in something called linoleic acid, an omega-6 fat. When you eat a lot of it, it gets built directly into the outer shell of your LDL particles. LDL carrying a lot of linoleic acid is much easier to chemically damage, to oxidize, than LDL with less of it. And it is the oxidized, damaged form of LDL that actually initiates plaque buildup in the artery wall, not LDL on its own. DiNicolantonio and O'Keefe laid this out in Open Heart in 2018. Their argument is that linoleic acid is the most common oxidized fat found inside human atherosclerotic plaques, and that its concentration tracks with how severe the disease is. I will say this plainly. It is a viewpoint paper, not a randomized trial, and both authors have commercial ties in nutrition. Take it as one serious piece of the argument, not the final word. The underlying mechanism, that oxidized LDL drives plaque, and that linoleic acid is what gets oxidized inside LDL particles. That part is well established, even where the full clinical picture is still being worked out. So bring that back to what we just covered. Ultra-processed food drives inflammation and spikes blood sugar, which creates oxidative stress that starts damaging LDL. Seed oils load your LDL with the fat that oxidizes most easily under that stress. The two problems feed each other. The Tsimane have neither. Their cooking fat comes from the animals they hunt and the plants they gather. Nothing extracted, nothing refined, nothing sitting in a plastic bottle under fluorescent lights for 6 months. You now have 2 of the 3 pieces. The third is the one researchers almost did not include in the paper because it looked too simple to matter. Here is what I said I would come back to. Not cutting a food, not swallowing anything, free. It is daily movement. Not the gym, not a training program, just moving through your day the way humans moved for almost all of human history. The Tsimane walk roughly 15,500 steps a day for women and over 17,000 for men. They are on their feet for 5 to 6 hours, farming, fishing, carrying, building. They sit for about 10% of their waking hours. The average American sits for 54%. Kaplan and colleagues flagged this in The Lancet in 2017. The diet and the physical activity of the Tsimane are likely working together to protect their arteries. You cannot cleanly separate the two. You might think this only applies to people in the Amazon. Different genes, different climate, different everything. But the same pattern shows up in populations with nothing else in common. The Hadza of Tanzania are a hunter-gatherer group in East Africa. Different continent, different foods, different culture entirely. Reichlen and colleagues measured their daily activity using continuous heart rate monitors published in the American Journal of Human Biology in 2017. The Hadza averaged 75 minutes of moderate to vigorous movement per day, more than 14 times the average for American study participants. No meaningful cardiovascular risk factors in that population. Low blood pressure, clean lipid profiles. Then look at what happens at scale. Ekelund and colleagues pooled data from over 1 million people across many countries, published in The Lancet in 2016. Around 60 to 75 minutes of moderate daily activity appeared to cancel out the elevated mortality risk from prolonged sitting. Not intense exercise, not marathon training, a brisk walk, sustained movement, getting off the chair. 3 populations, 3 continents, different diets, different genes, different climates. The same cardiovascular picture when they move. One honest note before we go any further. The Tsimane research itself cautions that movement alone probably does not explain everything. Diet matters too. These 3 pieces likely work together. Pull one out and the others do less. And if you have had a recent cardiac event, a joint replacement, balance problems, or any breathing issues, talk to your doctor before you significantly increase your steps. Not because walking is dangerous. It almost never is. But your starting point matters, and a GP can help you find the right level. For everyone else, the entry point is this. Stop sitting for the next 30 minutes. 3 things. Let's work through each one. The first is to audit your ultra-processed food and pick one category to cut. Do not try to overhaul everything at once. Wilson and colleagues at the University of Pennsylvania reviewed 150 behavioral studies published in Health Psychology in 2016 and found that targeting 2 to 3 habits at the same time gives the best results. More than that, and compliance collapses. Start with whichever category you eat most. For most people, it is one of 4. Packaged snacks, sugary drinks, deli meats, and processed cheeses, or breakfast cereals. Pick one. Replace it with a whole food, not a healthier packaged version, an actual whole food. Boiled eggs instead of a cereal bar. Water or black coffee instead of a sweet drink. Canned fish with olive oil instead of processed deli meat. Stick to that one swap for 3 weeks before changing anything else. Do it at the meal where you eat the most processed food, usually breakfast or lunch. The second is to change one cooking fat. You do not need to throw out your entire kitchen. Just pick one oil you use regularly and replace it. Use extra virgin olive oil for low to medium heat, dressings, finishing, drizzling over food. For high heat cooking, a small amount of butter or cold-pressed coconut oil is more stable. Stop buying soybean, corn, sunflower, canola, or mixed vegetable oils. Eating out is harder to control. Focus on what you can manage at home first. This is a swap, not an addition. You do not need more fat than you were already using. Do this at the same time as the first step. 2 changes at once is the behavioral sweet spot. The third is to add movement in 2 places in your day. After your largest meal, take a 10-minute walk. Do not sit back down for at least 10 minutes after eating. That habit alone has a meaningful effect on blood sugar response after meals. Then find the longest unbroken sitting stretch in your day and break it up. Set a reminder on your phone every 45 to 60 minutes. Stand. Walk to another room. Go outside for 2 minutes. You are not trying to hit a step count right away. You are trying to stop the long sitting streaks. Over 90 days, aim for 7,000 to 8,000 steps a day. Most people get there without any formal program, just by breaking up sitting and taking the after-meal walk. Start this in week 2 or 3, once the food swaps are already running. At 90 days, ask your GP to run 3 tests. 2 are usually part of a routine panel already. The third you may need to ask for by name. First, a fasting lipid panel. Your LDL, HDL, and triglycerides. Watch the triglycerides especially. They tend to respond quickly when you cut refined carbohydrates and sugar. A drop within 90 days is a good early sign. Second, a fasting blood glucose or HbA1c. That is your average blood sugar over 2 to 3 months. Ask your GP which they prefer to run. This one moves when you cut ultra-processed food and add movement. Third, high-sensitivity CRP. That is a marker of low-grade inflammation. You may need to ask for this one specifically. It is not always included by default. You want a value below 1.0 milligrams per liter. What to expect, honestly? At 7 days, probably not much you can measure. Some people notice less bloating and slightly better sleep. Do not expect dramatic changes yet. At 30 days, energy levels may feel more stable across the day, particularly if you have cut sugary drinks or high-sugar snacks. Nothing you can prove yet. Just notice. At 90 days, the blood tests start to tell a story. Triglycerides and blood glucose tend to shift faster than LDL. Do not be discouraged if LDL moves slowly. It often does, and LDL alone is not the whole picture. The combination of all 3 markers matters more than any single number. We started in Bolivia. 705 hearts scanned, 85% clean. If you have been watching health content for years and still find that number hard to believe, you are not alone. I did too. Tonight, find the oil you cook with most. Turn the bottle over. If it says soybean, corn, sunflower, canola, or vegetable oil, set it aside. Tomorrow, pick up a small bottle of extra virgin olive oil. That is the whole assignment. Next week, we are looking at Okinawa, specifically the meal that changed first when fast food arrived, and what that tells us about which part of the day does the most damage to your arteries. It is not the one most people expect. If you want to be here for that, subscribe. It is 1 click. Tell me in the comments, what is the one dietary change you have already tried that actually stuck? I read every single one. What you say here shapes what I make next.